Hi guys, welcome to today's training session with EXCHIEF. My name is Ebenezer Arthur and I will be taking you through today's session. Now, today we're going to be looking at spot trading navigation on the EXCHIEF website. And without any delays, let's get started and see how to navigate whilst doing spot trading on the EXCHIEF website. So I'm just going to sign up into my account so that we get started. So let's bear in mind that spot trading isn't that difficult, unlike what most of us think. So once you have the willingness to learn, it is quite interesting, and there's a whole lot you can do once you get to know what you're doing. Okay, so when you log in, this is the interface that you have. Okay, and I'm logged into my account now. So if I want to go to the live exchange, all I have to do is to click on this button over here. Okay, so where you see the exchange, you just have to click on that and it brings you to the main exchange page. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at a couple of items, and I just want to group them or summarize them so that you have a fair idea of the things we'll be touching on today. So this area is the first thing we're going to be looking at. Then the second area we're going to be touching on is this bracket over here. Okay, that's the second thing we're going to tackle. The third thing we're going to tackle is this area over here. And the final thing we'll be looking at is this portion over here. Okay, so we're going to be looking at 4 main areas during this session. Okay, now this first session basically represents the different trading pairs, okay, of the major cryptocurrency markets that you have. Okay, so that's the representation you find in this area. Okay, now this second area talks about or looks at the trading charts, okay, and what is happening with the price as they fluctuate, as they rise and fall. Everything that happens here, you will get that information, the depiction of the prices, how they interplay on the market. You have that depiction over here. And the third area we're going to look at is basically the order book. Okay, so whether you're buying or selling, or whether the registration of orders, that information is captured over here. So that is to take note of. And the final thing we'll be looking at is how to place a trade. And we will be doing that using this session or this portion of the trading interface. Okay, so let's just get started and we see what the markets basically mean. So when we say a market, we are just talking about a meeting point of buyers and sellers. Okay, and you realize that in this area we have BTC, we have USDT, and we have Ethereum, that is ETH. So basically these are 3 major coins. Okay, and every time you click on each one of them, you realize that there are other listed coins beneath that heading, and all it means is that for Bitcoin we have these trade pairs that are pegged against Bitcoin, and they give you the option of trading in them. So for instance, currently you realize that my screen is displaying a trade pair between Bitcoin and then USDT. If I should click on Ethereum, you realize that there's a change and it's no longer USDT I have, but Ethereum and Bitcoin. And the same thing applies for all the other options. Whichever one I click, I am provided with a trade pair between Bitcoin and that particular option. And the same also applies for the other coins that I have listed here. When you click on Ethereum, you also get the same options available. So keep in mind this portion, the first portion, as I indicated earlier, gives you the various markets that you may want to trade in, and that is this area. Okay, so let me just undo this and we'll move to the second portion of our session. Now the second portion, as I said, we'll talk about this area over here where you have your trading chart. Okay, and you realize that at the top you have this indicating, okay, you realize that this is in cities. It says ETC/BTC, what is the trading pair between Ethereum Classic and Bitcoin, and this is the current price. Okay, this price is the state is 0.001313, and that's the price in BTC. Okay, and it says GHS 71.15. Now, to tweak this currency setting to depict any other currency of your choice, you would have to actually use this setting over here. You realize that there's a drop down arrow over here. So anytime you drop this down, you have the access of choosing whichever currency you want your figures to be displayed in. If I should choose USD, for example, you realize that immediately the system recalibrates and it gives me a depiction in dollar price. Likewise, if I should choose the Naira, for example, after the recalibration, I have a price depiction that gives me the value of the trade pair in Naira. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this at USD for now because that's what I'm more comfortable with. All right, so you realize that on your chart display interface, you have a couple of lines and they look like they are following a pattern. Okay, and this basically represents candlesticks. Okay, now the candlesticks, looking at the face value, you realize that we have some in green and you have some in red. Okay, now these basically give a depiction of price fluctuation. Okay, so every time you realize there's a green, it means that the price of that particular trade pair is in favor of one of the pairs. There's a price increase in one, and every time you see a red, it means price is coming down. So basically that's what the candlesticks represent, either a price upwards or a price downwards. So let's just bear that in mind. Now, when you look at to this area, you realize that there's this button and this button. Now, the first button is what we're looking at, and I said that is a depiction of candlesticks. Now, when you click the second, you realize that the chart now displays something like this, and all this is just a representation of the former thing we looked at, but it's just giving us a different view of it. Okay, so just like the ones we looked at earlier, you have this depiction in this chart, and everything you see here in green represents buy orders. Okay, we'll look at that when we get to the order book area, and everything you see represented in red are sell orders. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. The greens are for buys and the reds are for sells. So that's just the difference between the candlestick representation that you have over here and this representation. But other than that, both of those two represents the same thing. Okay, now over here you realize that there are different time nodes or time codes put here. Now every time you click on a different one, you realize that the chart adjusts itself slightly to give you a somewhat different look. Now, what it basically means is that when you click a 1 minute option, that is the kind of display that it gives you. It gives you price fluctuations per the time span that you click. So if you click for a 5 minute duration, that's the kind of depiction that it's going to give you. If you click a 15-minute option, that is the display it's going to give to you. Okay, and you have the option of choosing which kind of display you'd want depending on the kind of display you want to get, and you can play around with this to have that option either. Now, directly on top of that, in this area, you realize that you have some details also captured there. Now, on here, you realize you have a change, and there's a percentile figure captured here. You realize there's also high and low, and you realize there's a 24-hour volume. Now, what this change basically means is that for this particular trading pair, that is the Ethereum Classic and Bitcoin trading pair, there's an upward movement, and that is a 5 points. Currently, it's 5.72 percentile increase. Okay, so that is just what this change also means. Now, the high and lows, these are basically the brackets, okay, the price brackets within this 24-hour volume that this trading pair has seen. Okay, so all we are saying is, or all this thing is depicting is that within 24 hours, the highest price between the Ethereum Classic and Bitcoin pair is 0.001325, and the lowest price is seen is 0.001232. Now, these figures keep adjusting as time goes on because of price fluctuation, so they don't stay constant. As and when prices change per the time span, which is 24-hour, the 24-hour volume, these price also will change to depict that difference. Okay. Now, the 24-hour volume you see is just as it explains, 24 hours. That is the kind of volume that has gone on in transactions. Okay. So likewise, as these two change, this volume also change because different amounts get traded with time. So you can have that information also captured over here. Now, you realize that there are, when you click on this pop-up arrow, you have some symbols over here. Now, depending on the level of your level of expertise or your experience, you may want to make use of all these symbols. Now, they give you different tools that are available for your use, and these actually make your trading experience very interactive. You can analyze the charts with all these tools, and you realize that when they give you different layers that you can add on. Okay, so depending on what you want to see, depending on the kind of information you want to display, you can add on to the original layer, and you have different details that are depicted for you. So once you don't need them, or once you have what you have, you can delete or just cancel whichever add-on you put there, and then you keep the chart. That is if that is what you want to do for your use. Okay, so basically that is all to know about this interface. The only thing you might probably want to look is this area, which is a representation of the price. Okay, so you realize that at this bottom you have 0.0011, and you realize that it keeps increasing as you go up, and that's just a graphical depiction of the price between this trade pair. All right, so the next thing we want to look at is the order book. Okay, and I was trying to explain something earlier concerning the order book. Now, the order book is basically a summation of all buyers and sellers and the orders they put on the trading exchange. So when you decide to buy or you decide to sell, this is where your trade is recorded. Okay, so you realize that currently, let me just do this. Now, looking at this as it is, this left portion, this upper left portion, you realize that everything you see here is depicted in red. And when you come to the lower part, you realize that everything here is depicted in green. And when you go to the extreme side, you realize that it's mixed up. Now, I'm just going to explain briefly what this means, okay? Like earlier on, I was saying that everything you see in red means that they are sells, okay? And everything you see in green are buys. So, for instance, if I should have some amount of Bitcoin and I want to sell, and I place my order on the exchange, this area is where it's going to be captured. In the same vein, if I have some amount of Bitcoin I want to buy, and I should have Ethereum Classic in my account, then this area is where my trade is going to be captured. Now, on the extreme right, you realize the mix-up, like I was saying earlier. Now, basically, this area depicts the buys and sell orders as and when they are loaded onto the order book. So it's actually a chronological arrangement of every single order that comes on here. So they are arranged as per the price, the volume, and the time they are recorded. So when you take a look at this list, you realize that all the time records, they follow a particular order, okay, and they are actually numbered according to how they appear on the exchange, okay. So that is what is to understand about this area. Now, these three icons is what you use to select the kind of order display you want. Okay, so for instance, if I click just this, you realize that it doesn't change because this particular setting is what is already applied here. But then if I should go and click on the next one, you realize that everything here changes and I get a display of only sell orders. Likewise, if I choose this one, everything changes to green and I get a display of all orders that are buy orders. Okay, so that is how to manipulate these three settings. If you want both details displayed, you just keep the setting on here. And then if you want to have just buy orders, you keep that on the green. And if you want to have orders from only sellers, you can click on the red, and then that is the information that will be displayed for you. So that is what is to note about this area. So yeah, basically, this is what we need to understand when it comes to the order book. And the next thing I'd like to explain is what a maker is and who a taker is. So a maker and a taker isn't that hard to understand. When we say a maker, basically we are talking about any buyer or seller who adds to the order book. Okay. Now the order book, like I said earlier, is a combination of buyers and sellers. Okay, and that is where the meeting point is. That's where the market is. So anytime you place a trade, for example, and it doesn't clear immediately on the trade platform, and it goes to add to the existing list of orders, then you're a maker. But in the same line, when you make a trade and it automatically goes to clear some balance on the order book, then you're a taker. So if you're adding to the order book, you're a maker, and if you're taking from the order book, you're a taker. So let's keep that in mind. Makers make the order book, and takers take from the order book. Okay. So without wasting more time, let's just see how to place a trade, and we will do that with the last session I highlighted, which is this portion over here. Okay, so you realize that this portion says buy ETC or sell ETC. So depending on what you want to do, if you're either buying, that is what you're going to do. But if you're selling, then that is what you also have to choose. You either use the buy option or the sell option. Now, it is important for us to know that before you can actually do any of these trades, you should have at least one of these options in your exchange account. Okay, so you cannot do a trade between Ethereum Classic and BTC if you have none of them. Okay, you have to have at least one to be able to do a trade. Okay, so in this instance, you can realize that I have some amount of Bitcoin available, and that is what is depicted in this column over here. So whatever is available in my exchange account is automatically reflected here, and that is what I'll be playing around with. So in this scenario, you realize that I have Bitcoin, therefore I cannot buy Bitcoin. I would have to sell Bitcoin, and indirectly what that would mean is that by selling Bitcoin, I am selling Bitcoin and taking Ethereum Classic in return. So then I would be buying Ethereum Classic, and this button is what I will be using for that purpose. All right. Now, the next thing I want to explain is what limit means and what market means. Now, these two represent the kind of buy or sell you want to do. Now, when you say limit, a limit sell gives you the option of adjusting the price. Okay, so whether you are buying or selling, if you decide to do a limit sell, then it means that you actually get to adjust this price. Sorry, you actually get to, let me just undo this. Yeah. So when you're doing a limit, you actually get to adjust the, just a minute. All right. You get to adjust the price you're dealing with, and you will be able to input whichever price you seem fit. Okay, so for limit, that is what you have to take note of. It gives you the option of inputting your own price, and for market, you cannot do that. You would have to sell on the spot price, which is the price that is currently on board. Now, let me just adjust this. When you talk about the onboard price or the current price, this is the price we are referring to. Okay, so this price indicated over here is the onboard price, and that is the same price that is also depicted over here. Okay, so there are two places you can find the current price that is on board, either in this section over here or somewhere in between the buy orders, which is this, and the sell orders. Okay, so this is your onboard price, and this is also your onboard price, and your onboard price is what you will be trading with if you're just trading with the market option. Okay, but if you're doing a limit, like we said earlier, that is where you have the option of inputting your own price. So today we'll be looking at how to, what I'm about to do now is actually a limiter, where I want to choose the price I want to sell or buy whichever stock I intend to buy. All right, now you realize that, like I said, I have some amount of Bitcoin already deposited into my account. So right away from this, you can see that the spot price is 0.001313 BTC. Now, I do not want to sell at this price, so I'm going to decide to sell at probably 0.0015. Okay, or let me keep this at, okay, let me do a 4 instead. Okay, now after doing this, you have the option of choosing the quantity of your assets that you'd want to put out there in exchange for the new asset you want to take on. And you can either choose the 25%, and you realize that immediately you click this, this side gets populated. Now, depending on which percentile amount you choose to you select, there's an adjustment over here to reflect whichever quantity. And if it's everything you want to put out there, then you just have to click on 100%, and then everything you have is calculated and put up here for you. Okay, so assuming I want to do just 75% of the amount I have, that is what I click. And then remember, we already adjusted this price to depict the 0.0014 margin. So if I should click on buy, you realize that it says order successful. Now I come and all right, so you realize that when you click down and you click on order history, you have the transaction I just did depicted over here, and the status says transaction completed. Okay, so this is actually a trade we just did. We did a limit buy where we actually put a price quote, our own price, and then that is the result we got. Okay, so if this order wasn't cleared, you realize that that will be captured on the pending orders. Okay, so let's just do one of that and see how it's also going to depict. Now you realize that the price is currently 0.001316. So if I want to do a limit, then I would want to put 0.00, let's say 129, and I will do 100% of all of that, and I put that over here and realize that this new transaction didn't go to my order history. It rather came to my open orders, and this is actually a live order. So this status is open and it's going to wait till the price actually hits my set price, which is 0.00129. Currently the price is at 0.0013 and it's not up to my code, so it's going to stay in my list of open orders till that price is set as an onboard price, and then that is when my order will be fulfilled. Okay, and at this point, if you should decide to opt out of this trade, you have to just click on cancel, and once you click on cancel, it gives you the same feedback, and you realize that whichever quantity of Bitcoin was in trade is immediately returned to your balance, and you can readjust the price if you wish, or you can just opt out of the trade. All right, so basically that's it for today's session. Kindly stay tuned for more sessions on how to trade and other interesting stuff. Thank you for your time. Trade with EXCHIEF.